Hello everyone, how's it going? And welcome to today's Wild Rift video. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at my tier list for patch 3.0. A little bit later than usual for a tier list. I kind of wanted to wait for Sett's release, to be honest, give him a try, see what I think about him, see where he kind of places in terms of a tier list. Obviously, you can see on screen already that Sett is in the S tier, but we'll talk about him a little bit later on. Obviously, we're going to talk about all the roles from Baron all the way down to support, but I'm going to focus more and talk more about AD carry and support, obviously making sure that the video doesn't last that long compared to last time. But if you do have any questions, if you do have any different opinions, let me know down in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. And as always, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel for more Wild Rift content. Now, let's get into the tier list. Let's see what we have here in terms of what I think is a tier list. This is kind of like a general tier list for all elos. I tried to keep it as balanced as possible, but some champions are put in certain tiers for certain reasons, but I'll explain that a little bit later on. Baron lane. Now, Fiora, Jace, both really strong. Both of them have really good carry potential, probably two of the strongest champions in the game right now. That's why they're both still sitting up in S+ tier. Camille is probably the question mark in S+ tier. The reason why I put Camille in S+ tier is that she just has a lot of good lockdown potential, especially in solo queue. She can get out really sticky situations as well, which is also really good in solo queue. Great split push, great team fight, and just a great champion overall, which is why she's up in the S+ tier as well. Looking through S and everything as well, obviously there's a lot of champions in S, A+, and A tier. Honestly, all these champions, S to A, maybe not too much with A, but S and A+ tier, you know, you can play these champions really well and do really well. Even A tier champions as well are still really, you know, as I mentioned here, you know, viable champions as well that you can play. We've got Riven in there, a lot of strong, good mobility, a lot of strong carry potential again. Same with Darius as well. You have a few different builds you can go with him, more carry oriented build, or you can go for like a more tank build. Irelia, really difficult champion to play, but if you can master her, she can be really strong. Renekton as well, still really good champion, even though he did get nerfed before, but he's still really strong. Nothing's really changed with any of these champions. Dr. Mundo is probably the surprising one for most people in this patch. I think coming into this patch and coming into just Dr. Mundo rework in general, I thought it was going to be like okay, but I didn't realize he was going to be this strong. For those who don't know, I do some casting over for Purge tournament. And in the Purge tournament, there's a lot of Dr. Mundo being played up in the Baron lane. These were all like the top teams, Rix, Na'Vi, you know, teams like that as well. And Dr. Mundo was being picked a lot. Now, the champion not only is super tanky, but he also does a lot of damage. There were some games that he was even doing more damage than Ziggs, which is kind of surprising, you know, considering that Ziggs is probably a champion that you always see as the highest damage output every single game. But I think Dr. Mundo is probably the one highlight of this Baron lane tier list, is that, you know, if you do want a tank that does do a lot of damage as well and can, you know, sustain and do really well, then I would definitely give him a try. And then obviously you got Sett as well. Obviously Sett is still brand new. He's still only been released for a few days, but he is really strong. I haven't put him in the S+ tier. I don't think he's completely broken, but he can be very strong. Obviously, if you want to have a look at a build and you know, abilities rundown and everything like that as well, the website I'm using, Wild Rift Fire, for this tier list is a website that I run. I do all the tier lists, I do all the builds, so I will leave a link to that down in the description if you want to check that out. Yeah, Sett as a champion, really fun to play, has a lot of crowd control, has a, you know, huge massive AoE damage as well. Just a really strong champion to play overall. I definitely recommend picking him up if you are playing in the Baron lane. Kali's still quite strong as well, obviously moving down to the A+ tier. Kali's still quite strong. Can be quite difficult in the laning phase at times, but if you can get into the mid and the late game, get a few items as well, she can be really strong. Gragas, you can play in two separate ways, you know, tank Gragas, AP Gragas, depending on the situation of the game. Still really strong champion, a lot of crowd control. Explosive cast as well can be really good and have really good impact. Malphite as well, still a solid tank with Garen as well. Both these tanks are still really strong. You do see people build like AP Malphite sometimes. I wouldn't really recommend it. I would say that you do enough damage anyway with tank Malphite. But, you know, most of the time it's completely fine. Same with Garen as well. Garen is quite strong. Black Cleaver, Sterix Gauge is a really strong combo right now on Garen. He does a lot of damage and also he's quite tanky at the same time. Wukong as well, again, mixing, you know, both damage and tankiness as well with Wukong. The same with Olaf. Both these champions, you normally build items like, you know, Black Cleaver, Sterix, Death's Dance, Trinity Force if you really want to as well. But both these champions are really, really strong. I accidentally used my scroll wheel, just making sure that I didn't skip anything. But yeah, Wukong and Olaf still quite strong. Jax has obviously been changed a little bit. He doesn't get that much attack speed anymore, which kind of affected his jungle, but he does get some more health regeneration now. But for now, he's sitting in the A tier. He could probably move up to, you know, A plus tier if you do understand how the champion works. But again, very late game scaling split push champion, so you do have to be a little bit careful in the early game. But if you can get an early lead with him, he can be really, really strong. Java doesn't really get too much play too much in the top lane anymore since his recent nerfs. There's a lot of summon airy Jarvan poke top lane that was being played. People are still playing Jarvan just because, you know, how strong the champion is with his lockdown potential from Cataclysm. But at the moment, he's still sitting in the A tier. He still can be strong and he still can be really, really good. But at the moment, he's sitting down in the A tier. Pantheon's a bit of an interesting one. I feel like Pantheon is probably a better jungler than a top laner. But Pantheon definitely has seen a rise in play since the Black Cleaver bus. Since Edge of Night got put into the game as well, which is really, really cool. So yeah, Pantheon still can be really, really good. Even though I put these champions in A tier, they still can be really good. Graves as well. A lot of solo carry potential, can do a lot of damage. Basically like playing an AD carry in the top lane with Graves. A lot of sustain. A lot of good damage as well, so really, really nice. Kennen, you don't really get to see played too much, but again, you know, with the ultimate that Kennen has, can do a lot of damage, can be really, really strong. And then we have Kayle. Now, Kayle has definitely dropped down a lot. I think before I put her in S tier, but now I've moved her down to A tier. Did receive a pretty heavy nerf. She did. I did play her a few times. She struggles a lot now in the laning phase, especially because she doesn't gain as much health over time now. Obviously, her damage in the late game has gone down as well. But if you can scale and if you don't die in the early game, and I mean you have to play really, really passive in the early game now, most of the time you just have to stay under tower and just not contest any minions at all. Try and get minions under tower and hope that the enemy champion pushes a lane. But in general, just, you know, not as strong as before, but can still be really, really good. B, Singed and Tryndamere. Both these champions are okay. Don't really have a lot of benefits or anything like that. Tryndamere obviously is Tryndamere. Really easy to kite around and everything. He's probably a lot better in low elo than high elo, and you probably can still carry with him. But once you know, the higher ranks you get, the more difficult it will be to play Tryndamere. Same with Singed as well. Doesn't really do too much. It can be strong, to be fair. Can be, you know, can be pretty strong, but honestly, nothing really too crazy about Singed. Nasus down in C as well. I actually saw a Nasus yesterday do quite well in one of my games, but he did get like 3 early kills. And honestly, if you're any champion, if you get 3 early kills, then that's fair enough. You'll probably be able to carry. But yeah, Nasus, not really that great. Still could carry with him. And then, yeah, Teemo down in the D tier. I don't think I need to talk too much about that one. Not too bad. 8 minutes in, we're done with Baron. All right, we're doing good. We're doing good on timing. Right, Jungle. Jungle's a very interesting one as well. Not really a lot of things have changed. Lee Sin and Kha'Zix still 2 of the strongest champions again in the whole game. The same with like Fiora and Jace right now in Baron lane. Exactly the same with Jungle. Lee Sin, really good mobility, really good damage, really good early game potential. Kha'Zix as well with his evolve abilities, really, really strong. A lot of early game damage and even late game damage potential as well with his isolation damage. S tier, all these champions are really, really strong. Nunu, really, really good tank that can be, you know, sometimes used as a carry as well. You can build a little bit of damage on him as well, which can be really, really nice. Olaf, really, really strong as well. A lot of strong tankiness, a lot of strong healing. Obviously has the Ragnarok as well to become pretty much unkillable because you can't hit him with any sort of crowd control. Evelyn's an interesting champion. I feel like she is definitely strong. You know, if you understand how to play Evelyn, then she can be one of the best champions in the game. Just because of her invisibility and the way the champion works. But you need a little bit of time to kind of understand the way Evelyn works. But I feel like even just for an average player, if you read the abilities and if you understand the combos and if you read up a little bit about Evelyn, you should understand how to play her. You should be able to understand how to carry. Jason Fiora is obviously a bit of an interesting one. Because both of these obviously top laners, but they can be played in the jungle as well. The same with Sett as well, actually. I'd probably put Sett maybe in like A+ or A S tier as well. I just haven't added him into the jungle tier list yet for the moment. But Sett is another one that can be played in a jungle as well. I've seen a lot of people playing jungle, and he can be really, really strong. But yeah, Jace and Fiora, both really, really good in the jungle. Both have decent, gank potential. But it's all about farming. It's all about scaling into late game with these two champions, and that team fight potential as well, which can be really, really strong. And even split push as well with Fiora. Camille, still really, really strong in the jungle. Obviously did get nerfed quite a while ago with her third ability, not being able to stun the jungle camps anymore, but still really, really strong. Again, really, really good lockdown potential and disengage, as I mentioned before. Rengar, if you could get ahead with Rengar, he's so hard to deal with. There's plenty of builds that you can go with Rengar. You go like Crit Rengar, or you can go like Trinity Force as well. But this champion just does so much damage. It's absolutely disgusting. And is still a really, really strong champion to play. Vi, great lockdown potential, a lot of damage, a lot of tankiness as well, which can be really, really strong. Jarvan, again, same as top lane, still can be strong because of his kit, the way he works. His early gank pressure as well for Jarvan is really, really nice, really, really good. So that is quite awesome. Graves as well, not being played too much in the jungle anymore since his nerfs, but still can be really, really strong. Still has a lot of carry potential. Again, it's kind of like playing an AD carry in the jungle. So if you like that sort of playstyle, then Graves is a good champion for you. Wukong is still being played in jungle quite a lot, even though Riot have tried to switch him up into the Baron lane. He's still been played a lot in the jungle just because of how his kit works. His kit is just so flexible. He has a lot of gank potential, a lot of great engage and even disengage as well at the same time, which is why he's still being played in jungle. Pantheon, as mentioned, I think he's a better jungler than a top laner or a Baron laner. But he is, he's still, as mentioned, he's still really, really strong champion. He has definitely seen a rise in gameplay or in playtime because of the Edge of Night and Black Cleaver buffs and everything as well, which is quite cool. Riven, again, in the jungle, kind of same with Jason Fiora. You normally see Riven up in the Baron lane, but can be played in jungle. It's not as strong as Jason Fiora in the jungle, but can still, have a lot of carry potential. Jax as well in the jungle, as mentioned, did get nerfed in the jungle a little bit with the attack speed, but can still be really, really strong. If you can farm a little bit, if you could split push, get that little bit of gold, then it's really, really nice. And Xin Zhao as well. Xin Zhao, still really, really strong champion to play. Not as strong as before, unfortunately, but again, still has a lot of teamfight potential and a lot of carry potential. Moving on down to A, Tryndamere obviously got nerfed this patch to jungle Tryndamere, just to kind of stop like low elo players, I guess, playing him in the jungle, because he was being played a lot apparently. Don't really see him a lot in high elo, but that's because people kind of understand how to play against him and how his kit works. But yeah, he still can, do really, really well. The nerf was to do with the third ability. If you crit a jungle monster now or a jungle camp, you won't get a 1 second cooldown lowered on your third ability, but to be honest, it's still completely fine. And you have Dr. Mundo down here as well. You don't really see him get played jungle that much now since his rework, just because his rework doesn't really benefit him a lot in the jungle, but he still can work. He still can be played in the jungle as well. Then you move down to B. All of these champions are either A, hard to play, B, not good, C just doesn't really offer too much, and yeah, that's pretty much it, to be fair. Rammus is just a full tank. Sometimes Rammuses can do really, really well, but it doesn't really offer too much, to be fair. Once you use your ultimate, once you use your taunt, you can't really do that much. And if, an enemy champion has something like a QSS available, or if you're against a lot of AP damage as well as a Rammus, then it is quite hard to play him. Obviously, Master Yi is Master Yi. Low elo, he might be really, really good. But again, it's kind of like Tryndamere in a way. The high elo you get, the easier it is to understand how to play against him, and other people will know how to play against him as well. Shyvana just not really good at the moment, unfortunately. Doesn't really do a lot of damage. Doesn't really have a lot of team fight or crowd control potential at the moment. Maybe when the dragons get changed, it will be interesting to see if Shyvana's going to get changed as well. But we'll have to wait and see about that. Hopefully that should be coming very, very soon. And Amumu as well. Obviously, just probably one of the worst junglers in the game. Just isn't really tanky for what he can offer, and doesn't really do a lot of damage. Obviously, you do have things like Curse's Sad Mummy. You do have double bandage toss as well, which can be good for lockdown. But yeah, just a champion that doesn't really offer too much. Moving on to the mid lane, we have Jace again up in S+ tier. As mentioned, multiple roles for Jace. One of the strongest champions in the game at the moment. Really, really strong. Zed and Diana, double assassins, AD or AP. Highly recommend you pick up any of these two champions. Zed, a lot of mobility, a lot of carry potential, can sometimes even one-shot AD carries as well, which can be pretty disgusting. And Diana as well, great teamfight potential, really, really strong champion that you can play. Again, if you need AP damage, then Diana is the go-to champion to play if you need AP damage. Moving on down to S, we've already spoke a little bit about Irelia. I would say she probably could be a better mid laner than the top laner, depending on the matchups, especially because the matchups at the moment in mid lane, you're seeing a lot of AD champions in the top side of the map, so Baron, jungle, and mid lane. So you're just seeing a lot of AD versus AD matchups, which is why sometimes in competitive, you see a lot of AP champions like Brand, Morgana, Orianna, Ziggs being played in the duo lane, because you don't really want to pick a full AD team, because then you're kind of in a bit of a difficult situation where the enemy team can just build armor and just scale better than you. Twisted Fate, really, really good champion to play. Some people are even building him AD now, attack speed. You can give that a try if you want to. Wouldn't really recommend it. I still think the AP build is better. Lichbane rapid fire cannon, the gold cards that you can hit as well can be so crucial, and his ultimate as well. You can roam to different lanes. You can try and, you know, make an impact and help your team as well, which can be really, really helpful. Zig's still a really obnoxious champion to play against, even though he did get nerfed. Still does has one of the highest damage outputs in the game. One of the best scaling champions in the game as well. You just have to play really, really safe. Just throw your bombs to the backline and you'll be fine. Veigar's a bit of an interesting one. You definitely have to scale a little bit with Veigar, but I think the one thing why Veigar is so strong and why he does get played sometimes is because of his cage. His cage is so powerful on Wild Rift. Obviously, the scale of the cage is not as much as PC League, but just having that cage available in such a small map like Wild Rift is really, really impactful, and you can zone pretty much the whole team at times. And if you can trap someone in the cage, and if you do scale, and if you do get a lot of AP, then you can definitely one-shot and carry the team. Galio, really strong tank, really good damage output as well. You can be built in multiple ways. Yeah, has his ultimate available as well. Can roam a lot. He's really good in skirmishes as well with his taunt, his knock up. Again, just a lot of damage potential overall. Yasuo, the 0-10 king himself. 0 kills, 10 deaths. That is not 0-10 in terms of 10 kills, but you know what I mean. Still really, really strong champion though. If you can get multiple knockups on your team, yeah, like Alistar, Malphite, Yasuo, Wukong, there is a lot of potential for Yasuo. But again, as mentioned, AD champions with the items at the moment are just really, really strong. So that's why Yasuo is sitting up in the S tier. Ahri, I still feel like is really, really good. Reese is really, really strong on Ahri. It's a classic example of a champion, of a player that knows how to play Ahri and knows his limits with Ahri as well. If you can land a charm, if you can land follow that up with Orb of Deception, you can do a lot of damage and you have a lot of pick potential with Ahri. Orianna, really good scaling champion, kind of similar to Ziggs in a way, one of the best scaling champions in the game. Still really, really strong, so that's why she's sitting in the S tier. A tier, Carly, spoke a little bit about her. Laning phase is a little bit rough, but if you can scale with her, she's really, really strong. You can still play quite passive in the laning phase as well. You have your Shroud, you have your dash available to get away to safety. Katarina, I was thinking of putting her in the S tier. But again, Katarina's sort of a situation where it's quite hard at times to play against heavy crowd control. If you like first pick Katarina, for example, the enemy team can pick Galio, Alistar, Brom, you know, any champion like that can pretty much stop Katarina completely. So it can be hard to play her. That's why she's not in S tier. She's down in A+. So kind of a situational champion, can be played in different situations. But again, still a really, really strong champion. And if you know how to play the champion, she can be really, really good. Lucian in mid lane, you don't really see it that much anymore. But if you do get mid lane as an AD carry main, for example, he can still be really, really good. Riven as well in the mid lane. Again, as mentioned before, you know, Riven, Fiora, and Jace can be played in multiple roles. Riven in mid lane, not as strong as maybe in other roles like jungle and top lane, but can still be played mid lane, can still be really good. Akshan's quite an interesting one. I feel like I should maybe move Akshan up into S tier. I don't know. Akshan's one of them weird champions. I played against Akshan a little bit, and I played with Akshan. I had a game with Snitch on Akshan as well. You know, the champion is quite strong, to be fair. It's just sometimes it's a little bit difficult to play. I think just the skill cap of the champion is really, really high. And but sometimes the champion can be so annoying. You know, your whole team dies, Akshan comes, kills one person, boom, your whole team's back alive again. There's no, you know, resets or anything like that, or there's no death timers. So pretty mental what the champion can do. But yeah, still a decent champion that you can pick up for sure. Corki's still really, really good as well, especially with the Essence Reaver bust now as well. You might see Corki's now building more Essence Reaver instead of Manamune, which is quite cool. Morgana in the mid lane, obviously still quite a new champion. People still try and get used to her, but really, really good wave clear, really good lockdown potential. Obviously has the Black Shield available as well, which is quite nice. Fizz is getting a lot of play now. Fizz is an interesting one. People are picking Fizz into Zed just because of kind of Fizz's early game potential and that early game damage output. And it's surprised quite a few people. A classic example of this as well, I'm going to go back to the Purge tournament. Snitch picked Zed mid lane and Ruiz went with Fizz. And Ruiz just absolutely smurfed the whole game with Fizz. Just a really, really mobile champion. Can do a lot of damage as well with the Charm the Waters and a lot of, heavy burst damage, which is quite strong. So, yeah, Fizz, if you want to pick him up, can be quite good, but you just have to be careful with the mobility. Because if you use the third ability of Fizz too early, then you can be put in a bit of trouble. Renekton, not that strong in the mid lane, but can still be really, really good. I don't think I have anyone to C or D. No, I don't. I was just checking if I had anyone to C or D to check that. Renekton not really that strong, but can still be quite good in the mid lane, again, depending on the matchup. But if you're against like a range matchup, for example, can be quite difficult in the mid lane, but still can be quite good if you do want to play Renekton mid. Aurelion Sol is a bit of an interesting one. I feel like you definitely need an early game lead with Aurelion Sol, and you really need to make use of how much he can roam and try and get an advantage from that. Because I feel like if Aurelion Sol doesn't really do much, if they just farm and if they try and scale, then they don't really offer too much. Again, it's the sort of situation where if people understand how to play against Aurelion Sol, which with Aurelion Sol, all you have to do is stand really, really close to champion, basically stand on top of the champion, and when he uses his second ability to extend his stars, he won't do any damage to you. He'll just be his auto attack. So obviously, make sure his ultimate is not available. But yeah, there's that. Brands, I would say he's probably better in the duo lane or as an AD carry than mid lane. But again, it's one of them champions that I think people are still getting used to. More played as like a tank AP mid laner, but can still be really, really good. Yeah, bit of a weird one. Gragas in the mid lane gets played a little bit, not too much. More played in the competitive than solo queue, I would say, just because the champion is so good in competitive. Explosive cast and how much damage and how much pressure he can offer as well, which is quite strong. KO, as mentioned before, since the recent nerfs has definitely moved down the tier, it's not going to be as strong. And then BT have all of these champions. Again, all these champions not really that good. The only interesting one is Lux. Now, you've seen a lot more Lux recently. Maybe I have to give Lux a try again, and maybe Lux should be a little bit higher in this tier list. Again, it's a sort of situation, if you dodge the... wow, I completely forgot her first ability. Whatever her first ability name is, I completely forgot the name. I was going to say Dark Binding, but that's Morgana's. Might be Light Binding. Binding of Light? Can't remember. Anyway, I'm waffling too much. But yeah, if you could dodge, that, if you could dodge all the poke that Lux can offer, then that's fine. Annie has a lot of good ways of one-shotting enemy champions, but can't really do that much. And Seraphine is just Seraphine. If you land your ultimate, happy days. If you don't, then... GG, go next game. More of a support champion, obviously, Seraphine. Now, this is the interesting one. We're 20 minutes in. We're not doing too bad. AD carries. Now, this is going to be one that I might talk a little bit more about, but I'll try not to go too much because I don't want to run this too long. Varus, still insanely strong. A lot of poke damage. Nothing's changed with Varus. Edge of Night got slightly nerfed. 150 gold. Honestly, means absolutely nothing. The champion is still insanely strong. A lot of poke damage. Can even be built AP as well if you really, really want to. Wouldn't really recommend it. Yeah, just insanely strong champion. Kai'Sa is the interesting one. I moved Kai'Sa back up into the S+ tier. I've been playing a lot of Kai'Sa. If you've seen on my Twitter and everything, I'm back to a Kai'Sa one trick. I've done so well in Grandmaster. I think I'm something like 16 wins and 6 losses. And most of them in solo queue as well, since I've gone back up to Grandmaster. I think Kai'Sa, in my opinion, is the best solo carry AD carry to play. If there's any champion that you want to pick up, if you want to play AD carry, for example, Kai'Sa is the one. I'm 100% serious with that. So much damage, so much self-peel. I think that's the main word to mention is self-peel. Invisibility has a lot of isolation damage as well and can do a lot of damage in 1v1 situations, especially with the Acafian Rain, the first ability. Invisibility with the third ability. The ultimate as well, being able to dash into the backline or dash away to safety as well. Sometimes you can dash over walls, which can be really, really strong. And yeah, just overall, a really, really strong champion to play, and you should definitely give her a try. Now, the only other thing to mention in this is I haven't added all the AP champions in the bot lane yet. If you're wondering what bot lane champions I would do, Orianna would probably be S, and then maybe the rest of them would be like A+. I think Orianna is really good in the duo lane, but like Ziggs, Brand, Morgana will probably all be A+, in my opinion, just to let you know. Ezreal obviously received the buff. Is quite, you know, is still quite strong. The only thing with Ezreal is that obviously you need to land your skill shots to be able to carry, and if you can't land your skill shot, then your auto attack's not really going to do that much. There is some interesting builds flying around with Ezreal as well, which I might give a try. I might do a video on, so we'll see how that one goes. Corki still quite good in the duo lane. A lot of crit damage, a lot of scaling as well, and obviously the package can be really helpful. Now, Xayah is the only other interesting one. I was going to move Xayah up into S plus tier as well. Just because Xayah is, again, another champion that is really good in solo queue. A lot of damage potential, a lot of pick potential as well, especially with her feathers. She can try and land a root when she can. And obviously, she has her ultimate, which is probably one of the most important ultimates pretty much in the game, to be fair. And again, kind of why I talk about this whole self-pill, because in solo queue, sometimes an AD carry, if you are an AD carry main, sometimes, as you know, it can be really difficult. But again, the champion's really strong. It's a kind of a new build floating around where you go like Infinity Edge, Static Shiv, and you kind of skip out Slurry Charge Blade, and you kind of go for like the 100% crit instead. So you're more of like a late game damage scaling champion. More going for, you know, crit items and everything. But yeah, really strong champion. I was thinking of moving her up into S plus tier, but for now we'll keep her down in S. But she can definitely be S plus tier. Caitlyn, again, really safe champion to play, really long range, really annoying to play against as well. Her traps and everything as well can kind of zone out enemy champions. Yeah, again, just one of them champions that is really safe to play. Can be really good in solo queue as well, so that's why she's up in the S tier. Lucian still has really high damage output. I'm seeing people build SS3 on Lucian again. Please don't do this. Please go Infinity Edge. Please go Slurry Charge Blade. Essence Reaver is still not a good item. 5 AD does not do anything. You're basically missing out on buying Bloodthirster, which is a much better item, but you're buying Essence Reaver instead. And then you're also delaying the Infinity Edge and Slurry Charge Blade Power Spike. But I'll probably go into another video about Lucian if I do ever play Lucian again soon. I do want to go more into depth about kind of comparing the two builds and everything. So we'll see what happens with that. Moving on down to A+. Now, this is kind of when I was mentioning at the start of the video, is that some champions are here because of certain situations. Now, Vayne and Draven are probably two of the hardest AD carries to play in the game for two separate reasons. Vayne doesn't really have a lot of early game potential and doesn't really do that much in the early game. And she has one of the shortest ranges. She has one of the shortest... I can't talk. She has one of the shortest range. Is that even the way to say it? I don't know. Anyway, she has a really short range, basically. Which means that obviously in the laning phase can be really tough. However, if you can survive the laning phase, if you can get 2 or 3 items, she can be one of the strongest late game champions in the game. And she can be really strong. But the reason why I put her down in A+ tier is just because, you know, I like to look at ease of how to play the champion as well. Not just how strong the champion is or can be in the late game, but more sort of ease of how to play the champion. And Vayne is very difficult to play. And the same with Draven as well. Draven, again, completely opposite to Vayne. Draven is the strongest early game champion in the game, probably. Has the highest damage output and can be really strong. But you need to get the kills. You need to proc the passive. You need to make sure you get that early gold lead. Because, again, with Draven, with his axes, can be really difficult to play. But that's why he is down in the A+ tier. Jinx is just the worst version of Vayne. I tried to play one game with Jinx. My god, this champion does no damage at all. I don't know. Jinx is just a bit of a weird one. If you do have like a Lulu or Nami, then it can be really good. But other than that, I don't know. Terrible. Anyway, Tristana. I did play a game with Tristana. Obviously, I did a Tristana video yesterday. She was quite good to play. I played a few games with her. But again, one of the champions that, again, is quite difficult to play because of the way her third ability works. You need to make sure you auto attack the same champion that you put the bomb on. So if you put the bomb on the wrong champion, if you waste an auto attack on a different champion, you can lose out on a lot of damage output, which can be quite annoying. But obviously, there's that. Misfortune probably could be a little bit higher, to be honest. I feel like maybe she should be a little bit higher, maybe A+, to be fair, for Misfortune. Actually, yeah, definitely A+. I think that Misfortune is better than all 4 of these champions. So, yeah, Misfortune should definitely move up into A+ tier. But yeah, Misfortune obviously did receive the nerf because her movement speed was quite fast. But this, like, lethality Misfortune build has been quite popular recently. And again, in certain situations, it depends. If you're against, like, Assassins, for example, I would really recommend playing Misfortune. Again, if you're against tanks as well, I really recommend it. She's really good against bruisers and against champions that can't really dive onto you, but have to kind of walk towards you and come towards you, kind of like Darius in a way, Renekton, things like that. She can use like make it range. She can use her bullet time, and she can use the Serrated Grudge slow to basically stop them. Ashe I haven't played too much of, to be fair. I know NA love Ashe, but for me, Ashe just still doesn't know damage at all. Really, really good probably in competitive, a lot better in competitive than solo queue, but yeah, in solo queue not really that good. Jhin, not really that strong. Again, probably Jhin can move up into A+. I feel like Miss Fortune and Jhin can both move up into A+. The only reason I'm saying is that Jhin can do quite a lot of damage. Again, it's just more with Jhin, the consistent damage output, which I always talk about. You know, champions like Kai'Sa, for example, Xayah, Caitlyn, all these champions can keep auto-attacking, and they just do more damage over time. Whereas Jhin, he's got 4 shots. The 4th shot is quite, you know, does quite a lot of damage, but it just doesn't scale well into late game. And all these champions just do so much more damage. So yeah, actually thinking about it, if I move Miss Fortune Jhin up, they're probably not the same tier as Vayne and Draven. So it's a bit of a tough one. Maybe there's like A++ and then A+, and I move these two up. Anyway, we'll talk about that another time. And then lastly, we have Senna. You never want to play Senna. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. You never want to play Senna as an AD carry, as a farming AD carry. That's not how the champion should be played. You either play her as a support or you play her as a fasting Senna, which means you have a tank with you like Galio, like Garen, like Gragas that farms the minions for you, so you can collect the souls. So that's why she's down there. And actually, I don't feel like he's very, very good in the AD carry role. I feel like he's a lot better mid. He's a lot better at trading in the mid lane as well, especially because of his shield and the way his auto attack works. But in the duo lane, he can get caught out a few times. But yeah, that's AD carry. We're not doing too bad. Half an hour. Right. Let's quickly go through this in about 5 minutes and then we'll be over. Right, support. Not really much has changed with support, to be fair. Not really a lot of champions have changed. Nami and Lulu still 2 of the best enchanters in the game. Really, really strong. Especially Nami has a lot of crowd control, a lot of potential, especially in laning phase as well, to poke down the enemy champions. Lulu as well, when paired with like Jinx, Vayne, Xayah, Kai'Sa as well. All the shields and all the health that Lulu offers is really, really strong. Rakan, insane engage, insane disengage as well. Can be paired up obviously with Xayah, can be really, really strong, which is awesome. Thresh as well, probably, I would say Thresh is probably one of, if not the best support. So I would say Thresh and Nami are probably the best supports right now in the game. Both for different reasons, obviously. But Thresh, insane engage potential, insane carry potential as a support. Really good disengage as well if you do ever get into that situation. Moving on to S, Brom is still really, really strong. You still can use, you know, Font of Life and everything. Use the shield that he has available. His concussive blows, his passive is still really, really strong. So it's a nice champion to play. Janna doesn't really get to use too much, but if the enemy team does have a lot of engage and a lot of assassins, then Janna can be really good as a disengaged champion. So Janna is all well and good. It's quite a good champion to play. Morgana with her black shield and everything is really good as a support. A lot of lockdown potential as well with her dark binding and with her ultimate. Galio the same as well, more of a tank obviously in the support role compared to the mid lane, but again a lot of lockdown potential. He's really, really good in them small skirmishes, that he can do a lot of damage and that he can use the taunt to his advantage as well. And the same with Leona as well. Leona's not really to do with the team fights, she's more to do with lockdown. They're trying to lock down one person, and great in terms of pick potential, but again still really, really strong champion. That's why she's up in the S tier. As mentioned, Senna as a support still can be strong. I know there's loads of memes going around with like top break and everything saying she's like the worst support. She still can be a good support. I think he's just a little bit mad, but she still can be a really, really good support. But honestly, she's still fine. She's sitting in the A+ tier for me for now. Maybe a little bit lower. Doesn't, you know, sometimes doesn't really offer too much. I think it's more of the players themselves playing Senna. But if you know how to play Senna, if you know how she works, then she still can be strong. Anastasia obviously can struggle a little bit, but is still a quite strong champion to play. Has a lot of engage, a lot of tankiness as well that can be really, really strong. And kind of same with Sett as well. Now, I haven't really spoken too much about Sett support. Obviously, I spoke a little bit about Sett Baron lane. Sett support can be really, really good. If you understand how he works, again, if you want to check the build and everything on my on this website, you can do. Aftershock Sett. You play Aftershock Sett, level 1. You start with your 3rd ability. You just engage at level 1. You get Aftershock if you land your 3rd ability, and the amount of damage output that you can do, especially if you have someone like a Draven, like even a Kai'Sa as well, for example. Anyone with a lot of early game damage output, you could definitely do really well. But it's not a champion where you just go in and engage every single time. You need to find the right opportunity to engage. And Sett is one of them champions that can roam a lot as well. He can roam, he can make really, really big plays with his ultimate, with his third ability as well, as I mentioned, so he's really, really good. And might even be played in competitive as well. I'm not really too sure. It's kind of a bold statement, but Sett support. Keep an eye out for that one. We talked about enchanters already with Nami and Lulu. Seraphine, Sona, and Lux, in my opinion, are just worst enchanters, really. Seraphine can be good, but just doesn't really offer too much. Sona obviously has a lot of late game potential, has a lot of you know, ways that you can get into the late game as well with all the heals, the shields, and everything as well. But it's just getting to the late game that's the difficult part with Sona. Lux doesn't really get played as a support anymore. When I do see Lux support, most of the time they're building like full AP now. Yeah, most of the time it is. It's not really too great, to be fair. You can still play like a supportive Lux build, but most of the time you don't really want to. Brand in the support role. Can be okay, but not really that good. Doesn't really get played in support anymore, to be honest. It's just not really that good anymore as a support champion. Same with Amumu as well. Not really getting played too much. These two champions, not really getting played too much, but you can still play them as support. They still can be okay. You know, they still can be viable in certain situations, but most of the time you see like Brand in either Dura lane or mid, or you see Amumu in jungle. And then, yeah, in the B tier, Soraka and Blitzcrank, both these champions just don't really offer too much. Soraka gets countered by one item, which is really, really cheap, and then is kind of useless for most of the game. Blitzcrank can be good, but if you miss your hook, then you're kind of useless. Boom, we're done. That is it, chat. I don't know why I'm saying chat like I'm on stream. I don't know why I'm saying that. But anyway, yeah, that is it. That is my tier list for patch 3.0. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Again, if you do have any opinions about any of the champions that I mentioned, let me know down in the comments. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. And as always, take care of yourselves. Have a good rest of the day, and I will see you all very soon. Peace.